The moment I knew it was over, the way he said my name, like it had a stench, like she was just some outdated relic legacy code in a cardigan. I'd spent 9 years turning Viron Technologies from a spaghetti wire startup into a humming, self-correcting machine. And now here I was, in a stuffy glass conference room with a broken thermostat, listening to this spray-tanned VP with the emotional depth of a wet napkin say, "We're entering a new era." Cleaner stack, a tighter org, and fresher voices at the table. Then he gestured at her. Samantha, 26, fresh MBA, hair too shiny to be trusted. The kind of girl who still thinks Slack statuses are a form of activism. She smiled like she just won a damn pageant. "Hi everyone, super excited to synergize with all of you." I didn't even blink. Effective immediately, the VP continued. "Samantha will be taking over ops, automation, and infrastructure strategy. I know some of you are used to older systems." He looked directly at me, "But we need to move past duct tape and tribal knowledge. It's time to delete the clutter." He meant me. There was a second just one where I thought maybe someone would speak up. Maybe Justine from security or Raj from data. But no, their screens blinked back at me. Silence in high def. He finished with a smirk. "We'll need your scripts cleaned out by EOD. Keep whatever documentation you think's necessary for transition, then let's make room for the future." And like that, I was history. Oh, and hey, while you're here, can I ask a quick favor? About 97% of you listen to these stories without subscribing or liking, and honestly, that's like clapping in your head and expecting me to hear it. A click helps the team keep going and keeps the stories coming. Thanks, legends. Back to the knife in my back. I said nothing, nodded once, walked out like a ghost who hadn't realized she was dead yet. When I got to my desk, Samantha was already there. She'd moved in. Same chair, same monitor, even had her stupid little oat milk latte perched right where I used to keep my red stapler. I stood there, staring at her for a second. She looked up, blinked, and said, "Oh, do you need like box or something? For your stuff, my stuff." She meant the wall calendar with my daughter's kindergarten scribbles, the USB full of archived builds, the old mouse I'd fixed with nail polish and epoxy when IT told me to submit a ticket and wait. She meant my life here. "No," I said, smiling. "I've already backed up what matters." Samantha smiled back like she understood. She didn't. I walked past the glass offices, each one still running on systems I'd written. The auto-provisioning, the Slack alert daisy chain, the all-hands AV routing daemon I hacked together in 2017 during a thunderstorm, while the CEO was screaming that Zoom was buffering his face, like a mid-2000s YouTube video. They thought this place ran on dashboards and KPIs. It ran on me. And now they were replacing me with a girl whose last job was running a LinkedIn newsletter about how to manifest career wins with crystal grids. By 4 p.m., I'd cleaned out my Git folder, exported key logs, and zipped the things they didn't even know existed. My backup plan wasn't in the cloud. It was in a cold storage drive, nested 6 directories deep under a folder called Q4 Outreach Revisions. A folder no one would dare click unless they were prepared to accidentally restart the DNS router. And then I sat still, watching, waiting. I didn't scream, didn't threaten. I just waited for them to forget that sometimes ghosts leave tripwires. When someone tells you to burn the house down, they don't expect you to leave behind a fuse and a matchbook. But that's exactly what I did, smiling like a pageant queen as I cleaned up my legacy. I started with the public stuff. Renamed files, wiped logs, left behind a few choice README MDs that said absolutely nothing. Just enough tech jargon to make it look like a handover. Samantha would eat it up. She once asked if a JSON file goes bad if you don't open it in Excel. By 11 a.m., I was in full-on Marie Kondo mode. Compress, encrypt, archive. My real scripts, the ones that made Viron breathe, were zipped into a tidy little tombstone named Workflow Archive Finalv 2 Final Realizip. AES 256 encrypted, tucked into a private drive synced with my off-site machine. No one ever thought to revoke access to the SFTP node in staging. Nobody ever thinks about staging. They'd handed me a corporate shovel and told me to dig my own grave. I was just planting landmines. The VP swung by midday with that smug just checking in face, like he was walking past a dog kennel. "How's the cleanup going?" I looked up and gave him my best Stepford smile. "Great, almost done. Just tidying up the last few process handlers." He made a point to glance at my terminal. Squinted like he understood anything past sudo. "Make sure to scrub the deprecated stuff. I don't want any ghost routines throwing errors once Sam starts pushing her new builds." Ghost routines. I nodded again, of course. Nothing spooky left behind. He walked off, probably to get his mid-afternoon cucumber water or sexually harass someone in marketing via Slack DMs. I heard rumors. I ignored them, for now. Back at my desk, I opened one of my favorite old scripts. A true Frankenstein job from 2017. We were still working however we worked back then, and the AV routing for all hands was a mess. Half the execs sounded like they were phoning in from Mars. IT was useless. I built a dirty, beautiful daemon that detected when the CEO joined the call and hot-swapped the stream to the highest quality route, avoiding jitter and accidental broadcast loops. Things saved us dozens of times. No one ever even asked how it worked, and no one ever documented it except me. I stared at the script's name, Demon Caller 001. Ugly, obscure, invisible. I left it right where it lived in a dusty cron job that never triggered unless a specific set of audio cues were detected. But I added a wrinkle, a backdoor. One line that looked like nothing, buried in a comment block, hash fallback switch, trigger on keyword alignment. The CEO loved that word. He dropped it in every speech like confetti. Let's stay aligned. This quarter is all about alignment. We need tighter alignment across departments, so I gave him all the alignment he could handle. Once that word hit the stream during a live all hands, the script would activate, hijack the broadcast, and route it to his last known active Zoom session. Not a bug. A feature, a fuse. By the time the sun started bleeding into the office windows, my laptop was cleaner than a politician's conscience right before an indictment. Nothing suspicious, nothing alarming, nothing they'd recognize for what it was. I logged out of Slack but left a few Easter eggs. A goodbye gif of a raccoon saluting under the caption, "See you on the other side." Samantha reacted with a heart emoji. Of course she did. They thought I was done. But some ghosts haunt you in plain daylight, smiling, silent, and already holding the match. 3 days after I left, Samantha broke the sandbox environment trying to optimize the CI/CD pipeline by deleting half the shell scripts she didn't understand. They had to revert the main branch with a midnight pull from a stale backup. The developers who stayed late that night now drink in silence and stare into the middle distance like they saw something truly evil. Nobody called me. Nobody asked for help. Not that I expected them to. Pride's a hell of a drug, especially in tech. They'd rather duct tape a server with broken cron jobs than admit they flushed a decade of working systems down the toilet because a 26-year-old with shiny hair and a whiteboard marker said, "We need to be more agile." Samantha's debut presentation was scheduled for that Friday, an internal rollout of her streamlined automation vision. She titled it The Future Stack. I watched the recording on a burner account. She opened the Zoom with a Canva slide deck, mispronounced Kubernetes as Kubernetes, and pitched the team on migrating our core workflows to Trello. Trello for infrastructure. She also wanted to integrate Notion as a scripting interface. I swear to God, engineering leads blinked like deer in a PowerPoint-lit slaughterhouse. But the VP, he clapped at the end like she just delivered the Sermon on the Mount. This is the kind of innovation we need. Fresh thinking, no more clutter, the clutter being me. The systems that actually worked. The quietly humming machine built on bash, cron, and blood sacrifice. Meanwhile, Jira tickets piled up like unpaid parking fines. Deploys failed in weird, inconsistent ways. API tokens expired because no one had rotated them. I'd written scripts for that. Scripts that were now in a recycle bin somewhere, or renamed by Samantha to OLD crap legacy do not use final. It took them less than a week to realize they'd gone from a self-driving Tesla to a tricycle with square wheels. The VP naturally didn't take the blame. At the next all hands, I watched that one too, like a ghost in the plumbing. He said the current issues were due to inherited technical debt and poor documentation hygiene. Translation, it's her fault. Dead girl who can't defend herself. Bitter amusement, that's what I felt at first. The same kind of grim comedy you feel when your ex calls crying about his new girlfriend draining his bank account. I laughed hard, but it didn't last. Because then I saw Samantha's Slack message in the hash info channel. "Hey, does anyone know what the demon caller thing is? It keeps erroring but like, IDK where it even lives lol." She found it, or rather, tried to activate without the right context and threw a harmless error. Still, it showed up. Still had a heartbeat. And that's when my amusement turned into something colder. Resolve, the company wasn't just rotting, it was bloating, festering. And the VP had the nerve to tell everyone to trust the process like that phrase wasn't code for "I have no idea what I'm doing but I'm too powerful to be questioned." He thought I was gone. He didn't realize I'd already picked the time, the place, and the word that would trigger his reckoning. He just hadn't said it yet. They gave me until Friday to wrap things up. I wrapped, all right, wrapped a tripwire in tinsel, kissed it on the forehead, and buried it in the crawl space they never check. By Tuesday, I was already invisible. Badge still worked. Slack still let me in, technically. But socially, I was a ghost. The kind people pass in the hallway and pretend not to see, which suited me just fine. Ghosts don't have to smile. While Samantha skipped around asking if someone could pretty please explain what cron is, I sat at my terminal with surgical calm, working in silence. One tab opened to our legacy audio routing suite. Another to the metadata logs from the all-hands daemon, the one I built back in the dark ages when the company still thought Zoom was a fad, and our first HR manager cried if more than 2 microphones were live at once. The daemon was dead by policy but not by reality. Nobody had actually deprecated it. It still lived on a dusty, half-forgotten Linux box humming under the floor in server closet B, the one that smells like cat piss and despair. The script hadn't run in years, but it could. That's all I needed. I wrote the edit slowly, like someone etching a spell, re-enabled the heartbeat check with a fail-silent flag, set up a new logic block. If the live AV feed was active, and the keyword was detected in the CEO's input stream, it would immediately hijack the broadcast and reroute to his last known private Zoom line. Not the company-wide Zoom. Not the approved, sanitized, blessed by PR feed. His, the one he uses from home. The one piped straight into his MacBook Pro, AirPods, mic, and all, where he whispers his unfiltered thoughts in prep meetings and safe space calls with the VP. One that never mutes when it should. The keyword, alignment, of course it was. He says it like it's holy. Like it's proof he read a business book once and understood more than just the table of contents. I counted 16 times he used it in the last two all hands. I could have picked anything, but that one would guarantee detonation. I didn't stop there. I hardened the route, masked the trigger, set a 200 ms delay so the switch wouldn't be obvious, rewrote error output to look like benign AV packet loss. And then, just to be extra cruel, I added a logging comment in the script, alignment patch, fallback integration in case of misfires. God, I cracked myself up. I checked the calendar. Next all hands, Thursday at 10 a.m. Samantha was listed as technical producer. The VP scheduled a 15-minute keynote from the CEO to kick it off. Probably some meaningless speech about new org values and staying the course. I smiled, shut my laptop, and went to the break room for one last shitty office coffee. There's a kind of peace that comes from knowing no one in the building realizes the clock is ticking, that everything they think is under control has a vein of C4 running underneath it, and you're the only one holding the trigger word. It wasn't revenge. Not yet, it was still prep. The knife hadn't twisted, but it was sharp, and it was in position. The calendar invite dropped Wednesday morning like a guillotine blade with Outlook confetti. Subject, quarterly all hands, embracing the future light rocket laptop time, Thursday at 10 o'clock a.m. EST host, Samantha Wilkes location, Viron Company Zoom streamlined version. Agenda, CEO remarks, Q&A, culture spotlight. New ops vision segment, I could practically hear the VP dictating it through a mouthful of gluten-free arrogance. Make it pop, Sam. People need to feel the energy shift. Samantha, God bless her, posted a thread in company-wide Slack that read like a sorority newsletter. So excited to host my first all hands, fam. We're gonna keep it snappy, inspiring, and modern. Grinning blue, please arrive 5 minutes early so we can stay aligned. There it was. That sweet, stupid word, like a loaded shell already chambered. The VP even chimed in to hype her up, calling it a new chapter in Viron's evolution and promising a leaner, smarter, more intentional culture. His favorite buzzword, like intent ever fixed a broken deploy pipeline. I watched the fire ignite from the outside. Well, almost the outside. Technically, I was still employed for another 36 hours. Nobody had revoked my access yet, probably assuming I was already checked out. Rookie mistake. You never turn your back on a quiet exit, especially one with IT permissions. I spent my last afternoon doing what all ghosts do best, haunting in silence. First, I uploaded a handover note, a dense PDF buried 2 subfolders deep in our shared drive, labeled Transition Timeline Q3 Infra Tooling Final README 2. PDF in it, somewhere around page 16, between a fake section on containerized backups and an entirely fabricated section called Sam's SSH tunnel access, was this sentence. Please do not disable daemon caller 001. SH on node B3. This fallback mechanism is required in case of legacy AV route misfires during live events. See notes in archive changelog AV route 2018 migration V1. To anyone with half a brain, it would look like boring, obscure nonsense. But it was just plausible enough that if anyone found it, they'd assume it was already handled. Just another part of the clutter. No one read the doc. Of course they didn't. Why read when you can assume? Why question when you've got Samantha's Canva slides and the VP's LinkedIn bravado to guide the ship? By 4 o'clock p.m., I had zipped up every local trace of my work, flushed my browser sessions, shredded my temporary scratchpad notes, even deleted my own farewell message draft in Notes. I didn't want a record of goodbyes. Let them wonder if I ever meant to say one. I shut down my laptop for the final time, laid my badge on the desk, and gave Samantha's desk a long glance. Her new plant had already wilted from overwatering. Fitting. I walked to the elevator like I still belonged. Nobody stopped me. Nobody looked up. That's the thing about a clean exit. You don't scream, you don't slam doors. You just disappear so well they don't realize until you're already a rumor. Security deactivated my badge at midnight per policy. I checked just to be sure. Tried the employee portal at 12:03 a.m. Access denied. No Slack, no Jira, no Drive permissions. I was officially a ghost. But the script, still ticking, still listening. And tomorrow, when the CEO opened his mouth to spew whatever reheated motivational chili he had cooked up and dropped his favorite little word into the mic, the demon would wake up. And 1,500 employees would hear what I already knew. You don't build a palace on quicksand and fire the woman who mapped the foundation. The all hands opened like a parody of itself. Samantha's Canva countdown ticked down from 30, with generic royalty-free music playing in the background, a kind of upbeat elevator track that sounded like it had been focus tested on lab rats for maximum corporate compliance. Musical note doot doot da da teamwork makes the dream work musical note over 1,500 employees logged in. Screens flickered on across time zones, coffee mugs, wrinkled hoodies, fake smiles. In Slack, Hash Company all lit up with emojis and half-hearted gifs. Someone posted, "Let's go fire fire fire." One else replied, "PLS no." Samantha appeared on screen, beaming like she was hosting Good Morning, Corporate America. She was standing in front of a softly lit branded backdrop. The comms team printed that morning, Viron blue, complete with an inspirational quote in a god-awful font, "Innovation begins where legacy ends." The VP was hovering just behind the camera, grinning like a frat pledge who just got handed the aux cord. "Hi, everyone. So excited to welcome you to a very special all hands," Samantha chirped. "We're streamlining the experience so things will be a little quicker, a little tighter, and way more modern. We'll kick things off with a message from our fearless leader, so please give a virtual round of applause for our CEO, Brad Kessler." Zoom applause emojis popped like confetti. And then Brad appeared. His feed lit up in high def from his home office. Mahogany bookshelves, wall of tasteful fake awards. That weird blue light every rich dude installs behind their webcam now, like they think it makes them look visionary instead of freshly embalmed. Brad leaned into the mic, adjusted his AirPods, and flashed his signature visionary grin trademark, the same one they plastered across Forbes last year under the headline, "How One CEO Turned Legacy Bloat into Billion-Dollar Brilliance." He cleared his throat. "Let's make sure we're all in alignment as we move into Q3, click." The trigger was instant, seamless. To the average viewer, it felt like a hiccup in the stream, a 200 millisecond buffer stutter, the kind you'd expect from overloaded Zoom servers. But then the branded backdrop vanished, the lighting changed, the framing went crooked. Brad's suit jacket was gone. Suddenly, he was shirt-sleeved, slouched in a different chair, sipping something amber from a rocks glass. The camera wasn't positioned for performance, it was just on, and so was his mic. What played next wasn't a speech, it was a conversation. Brad's voice filled the stream, muffled slightly by distance but clear enough to transcribe. "I told Marcus if he wants to cut the bottom 10%, do it before the holidays. Don't give me a goddamn guilt trip about morale. Morale doesn't raise the stock price." Pause. Ice clinks in glass, and HR. Don't even get me started. That's not policy enforcement, that's Linda's little crusade to play morality cop. She wants to change the intern dress code again? Maybe she should change the hiring pool. Back when we brought on younger talent, nobody needed 6 pages of rules. There was a silence. Not on the call, on the stream. Slack froze. No emojis, no memes. Just the blinking eye of 1,000 muted webcams staring, unblinking. Brad kept talking. "Honestly, it's like babysitting. They want culture, give him kombucha. They want boundaries, give him a Slack emoji. None of it matters, not when you're trying to actually run a F-click back to the branded stream." The Canva background popped in like nothing happened. Samantha was mid-sentence, visibly confused. The VP was now half in frame, whispering something, eyes like dinner plates. And that's why we're really excited for the culture spotlight. We'll pivot to that in just a minute." Samantha's voice pitched up, brittle and cracking. But no one heard her, because screen recording tools were already firing. iPhones were held up to monitors. Emails were being drafted. Group chats exploded. Someone in Slack typed, "Was that real?" Another replied, "Tell me I didn't just hear him call his wife a morality cop." And upstairs in the executive suite, Linda Kessler, the head of HR, Brad's wife of 24 years, had just finished her morning protein shake. Her iPad was open. Her earbuds were in. She heard it all, and she was already standing. The audio didn't stutter. It settled like a camera lens finally snapping into focus just as it revealed the ugliest possible thing in the frame. Brad's voice dropped an octave. You could tell he forgot he was ever performing. This was the real stream now, raw, unedited, coming straight from the CEO's AirPods as he lounged in his off-the-books prep call with the VP and some junior PR lackey named Devin. "You want to talk optics?" Brad muttered, slurring the last syllable like it had offended him. "Optics are me not firing people in Q3 so our Glassdoor doesn't look like a goddamn funeral directory." He chuckled. "Alone." The VP chimed in, nervous laugh, high-pitched. Right, but if we do pull the trigger on the bottom 10%, Brad cut him off. Then we frame it as a strategic recalibration. Jesus, Marcus, this isn't your first rodeo. Call it a realignment, say it's about staying agile. People eat that up. Alignment is the corporate safe word. Oh, the irony, he sipped. A pause, then came the line. "And if Linda brings up HR compliance one more time, I swear to God, I'm gonna move her to that Nebraska satellite office just so she can policy crusade her way through corn subsidies." Another pause, more laughter. Then, back when we actually hired hungry talent, before this whole DEI nanny state mess, I could walk into a recruiting mixer and leave with a full pipeline and 2 phone numbers. Now all I get is interns with boundaries and 6-month therapy plans. He said the next part like a joke, but there wasn't a single neuron in his voice that smiled. I miss when onboarding included dinner and a hotel. That was the moment the company Slack shattered. You could practically hear the typing across time zones. Screenshots weren't just circulating, they were detonating. Blown wide in group chats, in archived folders, in HR inboxes marked urgent. People were yanking headphones out of their ears like they'd heard a gunshot. Brad kept talking, still on the open mic, still completely unaware. And if Samantha can't handle one damn AV feed without tripping over her own Canva deck, then we've got bigger problems. She's cute and all, but if I wanted actual ops, I'd bring back click. The stream collapsed, gone just like that. The call ended mid-syllable, like someone had yanked the plug out of the wall. And for a long moment, the screen just hovered on a frozen image of the Viron logo, like a tombstone. 1,500 employees sat in stunned silence. Nobody left the call. Nobody said a word. Until someone, just a random engineer from the Austin office, typed in #company all, "So is this part of the new modernized delivery?" A second later, another message, "Is that what he meant by alignment?" And then it broke open. Like a dam, hundreds of messages. Reaction gifs, yes, but also resignation letters. Anonymous reports. Someone linked a folder labeled Brad Receipts, full of clips people had apparently already been collecting. Whispers became roars, and I sat in my living room, no lights on, no tea this time, just silence and the cold glow of my monitor, watching the aftershocks ripple through the company I spent 9 years building from the inside out. No smug smile, no cackling revenge monologue, just a quiet breath through my nose. Because the thing about watching rot collapse is, it's not satisfying, it's inevitable, and you only feel calm when you knew it was coming all along. It was the sound of heels. That's what did it, not the tirade, not the slurs dressed up in corporate slang. Not even the grotesque nostalgia for onboarding with hotel keys. It was the sharp, deliberate click-click-click of heels on the hardwood hallway just outside the executive wing, barely audible through the still-open internal feed that someone forgot to shut down. The same feed that was still quietly broadcasting from one of the security cams mounted near the CEO's glass-walled office on the 12th floor. It had no sound at first, just that sterile lobby angle, frozen like a screensaver. But then the mic picked up the footsteps. Everyone heard them. Linda Kessler, head of HR, wife of 24 years, Harvard Law, former federal compliance investigator turned corporate diplomat. She was walking, not storming, not stomping, walking like she was already done with the emotional part and had moved on to logistics. She turned the corner into view, flawless black suit, tablet in one hand, glasses on. The same expression she wore in every policy training module, neutral, unreadable, terrifying in its quiet. Someone in #company all typed, is this still the stream? Another reply, no way. That's the executive feed. Who left this open? Third, do we tell someone? But nobody did, because now the feed zoomed slightly, not a glitch, just the auto track focusing as Linda reached the glass door to Brad's office. She didn't knock, she just stood there. 1 second, 2, Brad opened it. He had that caught look, eyes wide, shirt untucked from the waist where he'd been lounging just moments ago, still holding his phone like it could protect him. She said something, no audio, no lip reading needed. His face went gray. Slack exploded again, now fully off the rails. Someone screenshot the moment and posted it with the caption, "Alignment achieved." Others followed suit. "This is the most productive all hands we've ever had. She's about to HR his soul out of his body. Do we even come back from lunch or?" She's going to update his status to formerly employed. Back in the live feed, Linda walked into the office. Calm, no flinch, no raised voice. The door clicked shut. The camera feed didn't switch off immediately. It lingered for 3 more seconds, staring at a closed glass door like a priest staring at a confession booth before the fire starts. And then it cut to black, just silence. The office went still, across departments, across continents. People stopped typing midline, no one reopened PowerPoint, no one clicked back into Jira. Meetings were canceled mid-sentence. A whole company held its breath, because even without audio, without knowing a single word she said, everyone understood what was coming. The kind of walk that only ends one way. The screen went black at exactly 10:14 a.m. No outro music, no fade to logo, no Samantha smiling through a "thank you all for showing up today," just static silence. The kind that fills a vacuum. Slack turned into a war zone in under 5 minutes. #company all was pure chaos. #info went full conspiracy theory. Someone posted a blurry screenshot of Brad's face mid-syllable, pupils wide, like he'd seen a ghost, or worse, understood too late that the ghost had seen him first. The hallway cam never came back. No one said a word in any official channel that day. No follow-up email, no comms, just a void. And then the rumors started. That Brad had been walked out by 2 members of the board's audit committee while Linda stood by, silent, holding a manila folder the length of a confession. That it had been instructed to mirror his laptop and lock all Zoom access within 6 minutes of the feed cutting. That Samantha cried. That she'd tried to blame the AV team, but then someone pulled the logs, showing she never once touched the fallback demon. Never even knew it existed. Her resignation email was one line, "This is not the environment I was promised." By Friday, every HR policy Linda had pushed for in the past 2 years was suddenly under strategic review. The VP was still technically on sabbatical, but no one had seen him since the livestream. Someone swore they spotted him dragging a carry-on bag across the parking garage on security footage, muttering into his phone. I never said a word, didn't need to. I watched it all from my couch, curled up in a hoodie I hadn't worn since college, my inbox filled with ex-colleagues asking, half-jokingly, if I had seen the madness. A few asked if I was coming back. Most just sent a single sentence, "You'd built it too well." By Monday, a memo went out company-wide. Subject line, Viron's next chapter, an organizational reset. The tone was surgical. No names, no blame. Just the usual we're listening and evolving nonsense that shows up right before the C-suite gets retiled like a bad bathroom renovation. And then, the message. Not from comms, not from HR, from legal. A quiet ping on LinkedIn, sent from a burner profile too polished to be anything but inside counsel. Hi, just doing some routine post-mortem cleanup. Curious if you remember where that old AV script might have originated. No accusations, just clarity. I left it unread. Because ghosts don't text back. Instead, I reopened my Notion board titled Exit Velocity. Logged my third freelance client, a fintech firm in Portland. Good money, remote, and most importantly, respect. I'd already started sketching my new portfolio site. No breadcrumbs, no legacy. Just clean, future-facing code under my own name. And as I stared at the blank home page, fingers hovering over the keyboard, I thought about the question they never asked, the one they should have asked. Why didn't you just delete the scripts? And the answer was simple. I didn't. I just rewrote the ending. Thanks for watching, you cubicle warriors. Hit that subscribe button. Unless you're my old boss, then you're on your own. Revenge of the coffee pot strikes again.